Hello, and welcome to the FlowRy Show, a journey through life's tapestry, wisdom for every generation. On this show, we talk about where generations intertwine, sharing stories, insights, and dreams. Whether you're a seasoned sage or a curious young mind, we're all students of the grand classroom of life. Here with me today is my co host, Mike Ryan, and we have a special guest with us. I am your host, Nicole Flowers. As we explore a tapestry woven with threads of collaboration, dreams, and lessons learned along the way, in today's show, we're going to dig in and speak with an innovative entrepreneur who has been a 15-time entrepreneur who have endured various challenges and lessons learned along the way. In a rapidly evolving technological landscape, business leaders face the daunting task of driving innovation while adapting to change. Enter Michael Gorton's world, a visionary entrepreneur, pioneer of telemedicine, and champion of entrepreneurial mindset. Michael, welcome. And we're so happy to have you on the FlowRy Show with us today.
Welcome, Michael. My name is Michael Gordon Ryan, not Gorton, but so sometimes it kind of sounds like 2/3 of my name. So welcome.
Wow. But you spell it with a D, not
I
a
do.
T, right?
No, I
Okay.
do. Yeah, exactly. And I know that Nicole has we have a few questions to ask you and just kind of your vast background. So as many folks know, I'm a second generation healthcare guy. And I've always said my father built and designed hospitals all over the world, including Taiwan and Europe and Costa Rica and a place like that. But really the future, I believe, is what you and your co-founders started with the Teladoc, and not necessarily that will provide the healthcare and hands-on, but really in many developing countries, having, whether it's for certain follow-up care or pre-care or aftercare, is really a game changer that we'll have in the next century. So, I'd be remiss. Yes, you've started 15 companies, but it's not it's not that the number, but it's the quality of those companies that you've started is extraordinary. So, welcome to the show, and we look forward to having a conversation about your entrepreneur journey.
All right. Well, this is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
I want to dig in and just share a bit more of your background, Michael, with our viewers. You have a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering and Engineering Physics, which one will think provides a foundation in the scientific thinking and problem solving approach that you bring to entrepreneurship. But you didn't stop there. You went on and completed a master's in space physics. And for some of our viewers, it means that you're able to practically apply scientific principles. But what is very intriguing is that you also earned a Juris Doctorate. So you have that unique perspective and insights on business and regulation. So Mike, with your vast and diverse, very diverse background, share with us, how did your educational background in physics, engineering, and law shape your approach to innovation and entrepreneurship?
Well, to quote the young people, I identify as an engineer. It's funny because getting into law school, I remember the very beginning, I was so excited, so many smart people around me, and then they all turned into lawyers. And I think the lawyers are sort of the antithesis of engineers, because as engineers, we are great engineers when we find the fastest, most efficient, least expensive way to solve a problem. Lawyers, on the other hand, make more money when they create chaos. But having a law degree as an entrepreneur is an invaluable tool. I mean, anybody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and has a science and engineering degree, I recommend it. It really is a valuable resource.
And thanks for that, because that then dovetails into what Mike started alluding to, your expertise across telemedicine and healthcare innovation. And we started dropping breadcrumbs about the birth of Teladoc, which occurred at, may I say, 19,341 feet high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mount
On
Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro in Africa, right? Yeah.
So take us back
That
to
was,
that moment when you and Dr. Brooks brainstormed the idea of Teladoc while
yeah, sure.
climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, as if the climb wasn't going to be challenging enough. Let's add some
Right.
more interesting conversations along the way. So share with us how that all birthed.
Well, Byron Brooks, Dr. Brooks, is a lifelong friend. I knew him in high school. He and I competed quite a bit. And he went off to engineering school, practiced as an engineer, and then became a medical doctor. And as an entrepreneur in the late 90s, I sold a company for $122 million. And I called a bunch of friends and said, I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. If you want to come with me, I'll pay all your expenses. And so Byron joined me, and he's like, this is not fair. I'm an engineer, medical doctor, and you made more money in one transaction than I'm going to make my entire life. And, you know, as friends, it's like, okay, Byron, you know, what do you want to do? Let's do something. And so while hiking up Kilimanjaro, we talked about, you know, how to transform healthcare by bringing telemedicine to the masses.
So amidst the grueling climb, this groundbreaking idea for remote medical consultation here presents the birth of Teladoc. How did you navigate the challenges of pioneering the telemedicine industry, and what advice would you give to others looking to disrupt the traditional healthcare models?
Well, I think the first thing that everybody has to realize is that the powers that be, the bureaucracy, was very against telemedicine. I did not know that when we started, but after we did get started and the press started doing stories on us, sheriffs started showing up at our office with lawsuits from the state saying, you've broken our laws, you're now a criminal. Wow. And so, you know, as entrepreneurs, we think that we're going to have a lot more challenges than people in the corporate world, but we don't ever think that we'll go to prison for our ideas. And 17 different states offered to send us to prison. Wow. Because they thought we were criminals.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And throughout those ups and downs and all the turns that you and your team took, Teladoc grew to become the world's leading telemedicine company. And you have exceeded billions, according to the New York Stock Exchange market cap. Yeah. What's your vision for the future of healthcare innovation? And how do you foresee telemedicine evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, well, I think Teladoc, we'll call it version 1.0. And what Teladoc accomplished was getting physicians to patients quickly. Nowadays, if you want to talk to a doctor and you're willing to do it with telemedicine, you'll typically get a doctor within 10 minutes. That's pretty extraordinary. When we started Teladoc, it was days, and now it's minutes. The next generation, I think, was to expand the practice so that we could do more things with it. I would call that Teladoc 2.0. And I think what's happening right now is Teladoc 3.0. And this is the vision that all of us really want. And that is, let's go back to Benjamin Franklin's quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Can we catch things before they get expensive, painful, dangerous? You know, can we catch cancer at stage 1 or before it hits stage 1? And I think the answer is yes. It's going to require a lot of data and AI and tools that are just now coming to the fray. So the next generation of care is really going to be health care, not what we have today, which is really sick care. And I say sick care not because our system is sick and broken, but because we don't call the doctor until we're sick.
Right.
And what we want is the engine to figure it out before we get sick.
And Mike, what are some of your perspectives, being that you've been a healthcare operator for decades?
Yeah, I think kind of when I started, we were talking about earlier, I think the opportunity, and we're seeing this kind of talking what Michael was kind of alluding to, is that, the 1.0, the 2.0, and the 3.0, I mean, we currently have the technology that we didn't have 10, 15, 30 years ago. And Michael and I have spoken before, one of the first uses of telemedicine was with Apollo 11. And I think Michael knows Buzz. I grew up with Michael Collins, who was famously had all the telemetry on him. And when Apollo 11 was done landing on the moon, Michael took all his telemetry off, right? And Houston said, Apollo 11, we have a problem. And Michael was famous saying, Michael Collins, famous by saying, I'll tell you when I stop breathing. And so when we have the technology that maybe it is monitoring, we used to have Holter monitors and stuff like that, but very hospital specific, now maybe clinic, but we're really getting where we do almost like holograms and other technology with AI that we can almost beam me up, Scotty, right? If you look at Star Trek, right, in that you can have the tricoder that can, do it remotely, having diagnostic before, preventive, everything from breast cancer diagnosis to having super, computers, right? There aren't going to be many of these. The UNIVAC, right? You only need 2 of those in the universe, famously said in the 50s. Now that is more powerful than anything was built even 10 years ago. And the camera systems they have and the other technology that intertwines with AI that then can very fast process billions and billions of bytes of information that a clinician can't do as fast, but then ultimately can have the clinician, the doctor, or the psychologist or psychiatrist or whoever that if it's a disease of the mind or disease of the body, that can really accelerate that over the next 10, 15 years. And I'm most excited about it. I mean, we're very kind of spoiled and lucky here in the US. We can go to an urgent doctor or whatever, urgent care doctor or whatever. And as Michael said, you can call up, get a doctor in a matter of minutes if you go to, one of these online services. But look at, the developing countries, 1.4 billion people in India. Look at all the, the billions of people that are in China. You look at the people that are in Africa that were bypassing what they're not going to have to build some of these clinics that are very expensive that my father did, 50 years ago, right? That you're able to provide care by telemedicine and by, using AI to expedite prevention. So you are doing what Franklin said, and that vision becomes a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, to that point, the mountain-born concept, which evolved into Teladoc, you have truly revolutionized healthcare and made it accessible. And that's key across the globe.
I think accessibility is only part one again. And Mike was talking about different ways we can capture the data. And there are actually tools today. I work with a company called Sensei that uses the standard camera on the front of an iPhone, and it can diagnose behavioral health. Do you have PTSD? But the reality is, in 5, 6, 7 years, our cameras on our iPhones will be able to diagnose all kinds of things just by watching our eye movement, watching our pupil dilation, looking at the colors and the how our eyes are changing as a function of our bodies fighting something. And right now we're sitting on a call with all 3 of us have a camera in front of us, and those cameras could become diagnostic tools in the next couple of years. That easy. And so the diagnosis will be all around us all the time, and it has to be so simple that anybody has access to it.
You know, Michael, you have such a keen eye for market gaps, which have led to the creation of 15 diverse companies across multiple industries. I would imagine your success comes from taking calculated risk and learning from both your triumphs and setbacks. You start talking about your involvement in this other company. Can you share some of the key lessons you have learned from founding 15 different companies, including Teladoc, Principal Solar, and so many others? What are some
Yeah.
of those key lessons that you have learned along the way?
Well, I think one of my favorite quotes comes from Calvin Coolidge, and I won't go into it here, but I would suggest everybody who's listening to this just look up Calvin Coolidge's persistence quote. It persistence, I think, is the fundamental ingredient that every entrepreneur has to have, because we get knocked down and kicked in the teeth a lot, and we have to have the persistence to get back up, think about what we did wrong, put a smile on, and say, let's go again. That's how you succeed. And you have to start with a good idea. I remember one entrepreneur I knew many years ago was very persistent. His idea sucked, and I felt bad because no amount of persistence was going to help that kind of deal. But if you have a good idea, persistence is and sometimes maybe not even good ideas. Mike and I are both probably old enough to remember pet rocks. I mean, what the heck? This guy made millions of dollars picking up rocks and selling them as pets.
Exactly.
I don't think that was such a great idea, but it was.
Well, they didn't bite, and your kids could take care of them and stuff like that. So it was an emotional attachment. I and Michael and I have had conversations. He talked about persistence. I call it tenacity. And I'm dyslexic, so maybe he's right. But the other thing is, I think, is most important because, Michael, we could probably say that telemedicine has been around for a while, and you helped write a few books on this, but the key to it is in all of having talent, having technology, having a team, all that is timing for entrepreneurs. And I've been involved with enough ventures that the timing wasn't just there. It was too far ahead of its time. You had to educate your market. When you're educating your market, it's going to cost you $1 gazillion that you don't have from venture capital or self-funded or whatever. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about timing and how you kind of knew sitting at a mountain in the sky that, okay, this may be the right timing of it because you recognize the market need.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could say I was smart enough to know the timing. The reality is, the idea of telemedicine seems so amazing. Anybody who has a friend who's a doctor, you pick up the phone, you call that friend or family member, and they diagnose over the telephone. We knew that it was a great idea. From a timing perspective, AT&T was one of our first major clients, and what AT&T decided to do was just add their high-level executives as a test. And I thought, okay, this is going to be really easy. They're high-level executives. They're all well-educated. They're going to get it. And they didn't. And it was education. I mean, we just re-educated over and over and over again. Now, calling a doctor on the phone seems like, oh yeah, that's the way I do it. But back then, it took a lot of retraining. And so in some ways, we maybe were way ahead of the time. We just found a way to get through it. But you're right. I mean, you could burn a lot of money trying to accomplish something when you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I would say, in March of 2020, a lot of things that, Teladoc and others that have been around, what really the Holy Grail is finding a CPT code, right? Or getting past the FCC or FDA or others that you ran up against in some of your journeys with local, state, and federal law enforcement. But when COVID hit, you didn't have orthopedic surgery. You didn't have surgery except, major car accidents and stuff. People weren't going to see their doctor. I remember having a conversation with the orthopedic head of the Orthopedic Association, who had never done any type of telemedicine prior to 2020, March of 2020. I asked him on a call with over 15,000 people from all over the world, including Wuhan, China. I said, how many patient visits did you do online today? He says 95%. Why? Because you had to. And guess what? They all got reimbursement because there was a special exception for reimbursement for, that money does move the needle as far as patient care. And so, I think we've fallen back now now that people go and have it, can have a, appointment by Zoom or any other video conferencing. But you hit it right on the dot. I mean, I do have relatives that I call up and say, hey, you're in Sarasota. My brother-in-law is going in for something, but we pick up the phone, right? Because I know the system, right? But it gives everyone, it democratizes access to healthcare by doing what we're doing now, but talking about, I got this growth here, doc. What's it look like? You think I should come in for a checkout or, check it, and then having a drone come in and do a blood sample right outside our back door. And,
that's great.
And again, I'm in Silicon Valley, but, to have that happen when you're 500 miles away in Africa or someplace like that, that's an extraordinary change that will, theoretically, hopefully improve the health through prevention for people throughout the world. So the legacy has a long tail on it, Michael.
Yes,
so bravo.
Well,
Michael,
it's amazing.
It is. And your entrepreneurial spirit has led to making significant impacts across various sectors. We talk here about healthcare with Teladoc. You've also started and led clean energy solutions with Principal Solar. What drives your passion for entrepreneurship and innovation? And how do you stay ahead of the curve in rapidly changing industries? Because you are truly brilliant. But share with us your secret sauce.
Well, let's have some fun with this. There's an old song that goes, "I want a new drug." So, okay, now you're going, okay, wait, what? and it's actually a love song. In the lyrics, the artist says, "I want a drug that makes me feel the way I feel when I'm with you." Love song, right? Yeah, exactly. And when you build something that changes everything, it gives you a high like no other. And you think, there's two ways you can go. If you do that and you make a lot of money, you can say, well, I'm going to buy a mountain house and a beach house and I'm going to retire. Or you say, I want to do it again. Exactly. I want a drug that makes me feel that way. And the drug is starting something again. Find that next idea that could change everything. And when I started Principal Solar, I realized that solar energy was dropping in price every single year, and it was getting to the point where it could compete with natural gas as a primary energy source. Now, you can only generate when the sun's up. It's got its weaknesses, but when the sun is up, particularly in Texas, when we're using the most electricity, it is a great backup for natural gas or nuclear or any other traditional form of energy. And so look for things that are going to change everything and figure out how to bring them into the mainstream. That's the goal. And Nicole, you and I talked a little bit about, I'm working with a space company right now. We're getting ready to launch data centers into outer space, and that's going to change everything.
Yeah, because the sun's always shining, right, Michael?
Right. The sun is always shining. The people don't realize when you get on, if you've already done AI, you probably don't realize that there's a lot of computers that are backing up every single AI request. And that means we need a lot of data centers, and those data centers consume a tremendous amount of electricity. And they're not close to us. If you live in New York City, your data center's in West Texas or Nevada. That's thousands of miles. And if you put that data center in space, believe it or not, we think of space as a long ways away because it's hard to get to, but it's 300 miles.
Right.
And so you'd actually be closer. You'd have computers that are generating their electricity with solar, so it's free, and no air conditioning because it's really cold up there.
And living in quake country, and others that are in Oklahoma, or hurricanes and tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes. Yeah.
You have natural disasters that happen, right? So being susceptible to earthquakes as opposed to lines that are man-made and put there versus the air as far as having access. It's definitely, you can understand why to go up vertically 300 miles versus 1,500 or 1,600 miles across the land has an advantage, and it's just a matter of time and technology that we are there. And it sounds like you're definitely on the cutting edge as usual. So bravo for that.
That's a curious thing that you just brought up, and that is, we are worried about tornadoes here. So it's never smart to put electricity above the ground, phone lines above the ground, because those tornadoes are going to rip them apart. But you're in California. If you put fiber optics underground and there's an earthquake, what happens? Does it break them and now you've lost your connection?
Yeah, I mean, it's you build it to a 7 or 8. But we just refitted the barge system that goes under the San Francisco Bay, and they've had that tunnel for 30 years. But guess what? The earthquakes are getting more frequent, and they're getting more powerful. So there's only so much you can plan for, right? And they're dropping a lot of the power lines. You hear all these wildfires, right? That wiped out like Paradise of all places. Mm-hmm. And 100 people died, and now they're putting those power lines on the ground. I imagine there's some flexibility, but I'm not an engineer like you are. But I hope they're doing the right thing. That they're not. There's a lower percentage of a break within a power line versus a telephone pole or whatever, a pole being hit by a wildfire. Lightning strikes. That's where most of them happen, right? So.
Well, it's a lot easier to find a broken wire in an overhead line than it is a fiber optic underground.
Yeah, lot less expensive too, right? You can do some of that with drones. It's hard to, maybe you can do infrared drones in the ground, but
Yeah.
This has been such an intriguing conversation with you, Michael. You have truly cultivated a collective mindset for success. What's next for you? We start talking about that space project that you're working on. Yeah. What are some of your new projects or ventures that's on the horizon that is exciting you?
Well, I have 3 exciting companies. One is the space launch company that will put data centers in space. I mentioned also a company called Sensei that can diagnose mental or behavioral health issues using a smartphone. And then a third one is a company that puts a neurological link in if you've lost a limb and have a prosthetic. And so people with prosthetics right now, let's assume that it's your hand. Essentially, all you really have is a hook. Sometimes they can make the hook do this, but not much control. But this new company, Phantom Neuro, the early users of it are able to count like this. They're able to shake hands, pick up things, and the next generation they're about to release, they'll be able to type and play the piano.
Oh, wow.
So guitar, and I think the generation after that, if there was a movie that we all watched in the 90s and early 2000s where they would say, download the program so I can fly this helicopter. And so my guess is in 4 or 5 years, you'll be able to say, I want to download Mozart's Piano Concerto number 20 in D minor. And then all of a sudden your fingers will know how to, where to play the keys. It's going to be really cool. So those are the three companies I'm working on. And then, behind me are 8 of the books that I've written. I wrote a science fiction book last year, and over Christmas, I want to finish the sequel to my science fiction book.
Nice.
So, try to have fun. And then Nicole, you and I were talking about, you're still a marathon runner. I am not anymore, but I do my halves and long walks. So, I think you always have to keep your mental acuity by maintaining your fitness.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a really important thing. Hopefully everybody remembers that. And part of Ben Franklin's, ounce of prevention is staying fit.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great insight. I'm hopeful also. I happen to have a elementary school buddy that I just met who unfortunately jumped in the feet first. I always tell my son, because he jumped into a pool and has been in a wheelchair for the last 50 years, and that we have that breakthrough in technology, whether it's a mental health challenge, that, a diagnosis that can happen, or, I have no doubt, I don't know if he'll be able to do it, but someone has a car accident or whatever, they'll be able to use the other technology as far as, whether it's on the arms, legs, or whatever, that, that would definitely happen in my lifetime. I'm optimistic that with AI, with folks like yourself and others that are, breaking the barriers of what we've done. And part of it's just, we haven't had the computing, and we previously had someone with quantum computing on, but we're barely touching the surface. I don't know what will be like Robin Williams' Millennial Man, that people live forever, but I think we'll definitely, a generation going forward or two will be able to live healthy well into their hundreds and beyond. So I thank you for what you've done, and hopefully we'll have this conversation in another 50 years with you. And we'll look back and say, that running really paid off, Michael.
What's funny, Mike, is I predict not only will we have this conversation in 50 years, but in 50 years, we will look younger than we look now. That's the whole point. If you read Ray Kurzweil's books, you realize he's always been ahead of the curve in predicting these things. And we're just a couple of years from being able to slightly age backwards every year.
Yeah.
And so, if we can calendar forward 1 year, but biologically move back, 14 months or 12 and a half months, then we're making progress.
Quantum leap, they say, right? One small step for man, one giant leap for quantum leap and mankind.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
Michael, it has been a pleasure having you on the FlowRy show, where we talked about your stories, creating a bridge across generations. You have also allowed us further insights to connect with you on a much deeper level. So thank you for that. And to our audience, as we navigate the tapestry of life, remember that every chapter offers new lessons, opportunities, and connections. Michael, any final closing for our viewers?
Well, I just think, if you have an idea inside of you, and it's a good one, make it happen. Find that persistence. Or I think, Mike, you use the term resilience or tenacity. Find those ingredients and make it happen. The world will be better if you do.
Well, thank you for your tenacity in making the world better, Michael. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for continuing to inspire us and allowing us to grow. So on that note, thank you, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.